Africa's revolution and movements towards independence in the 1950s and 1960s witnessed the rise of nationalists like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Amilcar Cabral of Guinea-Bissau, and of course Patrice Emery Lumumba of Congo. A number of them ended up paying the ultimate price for their patriotic convictions. One of these dynamic leaders who acted against the will of colonial masters was none other than Prince Louis Rwagasore of Burundi. Rwagasore championed the cause for Burundi to gain independence, much to the annoyance of the Belgian colonial administration. Well, on the 1st of July 1962, Burundi was granted independence from Belgium. Unfortunately, less than 9 months before this grand occasion, on October 13, 1961, the newly elected Prime Minister, Prince Louis Rwagasore of Burundi, was assassinated a mere 16 days after he had been sworn into office. A few weeks prior, his party, UPRONA, had won a landslide victory in Burundi's first parliamentary elections. It is alleged that the gunman who pulled the trigger and killed Rwagasore had support from the Belgian government. And this is what transpired on that fateful night that Prince Rwagasore lost his life, aged just 29 years old. That day, Louis Rwagasore was assassinated at the sidewalk restaurant of the local Hotel Tanganyika in Burundi's capital, Bujumbura, now called Bujumbura. At the restaurant, he had been dining with ministers and his allies. One shot by the gunman proved to be enough to kill him on the spot. Thanks to an alert witness who linked the shooting to a suspicious car in the area surrounding the hotel, and an alert investigator who also linked the car to people in Bujumbura he spotted that same day, it took the investigative team just 3 days to arrest the murderer and the 3 people who were with him at the site of the killing. The man who pulled the trigger turned out to be a Greek citizen by the name John Kajorgis. Kajorgis was accompanied by 3 Burundians who were all members of UPRONA's rival, the Christian Democratic Party, which I'll also be referring to as the PDC. This team soon admitted responsibility for the crime and implicated 3 others, including 2 Burundian brothers. These 2 brothers were both highly ranking members of the Christian Democratic Party, and the investigators saw them as being the brains behind the killing. Now here's the thing. Rwagasore's life was in danger after his UPRONA party had a landslide victory over the PDC, which was seen as being more friendly to Belgian interests. So 2 days after the UPRONA landslide, Roberto Regnier, who was the Belgian resident governor in Burundi, convened a crisis meeting of senior Belgian officials and PDC allies where he allegedly delivered this chilling message. Rwagasore must be killed, he said, and it is believed that his words were taken as an open invitation by members of the Christian Democratic Party to assassinate Rwagasore. At this point, you're probably asking why the Belgians and members of the Christian Democratic Party despised Rwagasore so much as to go to such an extent as assassinating him. Well, to get the answer, we need to go back and look at Rwagasore's life story and how he became a huge force to be reckoned with in the political landscape in Burundi, eventually leading to his assassination. Prince Louis Rwagasore was born in January of 1932 to Mwambutsa IV, one of the last Burundian kings. Rwagasore was the heir apparent to the throne of the Burundi kingdom, which had existed since the 16th century. Ethnically, he was a member of the Bezi clan of the Ganwa, a group of people of aristocratic status often associated with the Tutsis. In Burundi, class conflicts between the Tutsis, who were historically the ruling minority, and the Hutu, the historical and present majority, have run through much of Burundi's history, and this is the context in which Prince Rwagasore grew up. Prince Louis Rwagasore also grew up with the privileges of a prince, and as such he received a good education in one of the most prestigious high schools of Rwanda under Belgian trusteeship. after studies in administration and agronomy in Brussels, Belgium, where he met students from all over the African continent, Rwagasore returned to Burundi in 1956 and he began to lead the Burundian struggle for independence. Soon enough, Rwagasore started to cause headaches for the Belgian colonial government. For example, he urged the Belgian Vice-Governor-General to install a Murundi constitution in preparation for eventual Burundi independence. Around this time, Rwagasore also started honing his skills as a diplomat and a great unifier. As a member of the royal family who was affiliated with the Tutsis, he surprised many people by making it his mission to promote the reduction of the Hutu-Tutsi ethnic rivalry. To this end, Rwagasore married a Hutu woman by the name Marie-Rose Ntamikeyo. Many people say that his marriage was politically motivated, since it took place at a time when ethnic divisions and tensions were high in Burundi, and it is also believed that he wanted to prove to Burundians that the Hutu and the Tutsis could live together. The prince also impressed the people of Burundi by his spirit of initiative with the creation of agricultural cooperatives that were supposed to give Burundians back the control over production and by putting an end to the monoculture of coffee. Unfortunately, the cooperatives project failed, as the Belgian authorities recognized these cooperatives as a threat to their colonial power, and so they banned them in 1958. However, this did not yield the results that the Belgians envisaged. In fact, the move made Rwagasore even more famous, and so he created his party, the National Progress and Unity Party, UPRONA, in 1958 with a very diversified militant base. Rwagasore's UPRONA, which was formed in alliance with Hutu leader Paul Mirerekano, sought to mend the class-ethnic conflict in Burundi. One other thing that raised Belgium's suspicions about Prince Louis Rwagasore was the fact that he had strong relationships with great figures of African independence. For instance, he met Congo's Patrice Lumumba several times, exchanged letters with Egypt's Gamal Abdel Nasser, and developed his political project and ideology thanks to his friend Julius Nyerere, the former president of Tanzania. The Belgians really despised Rwagasore's national building efforts, and they were really angry over his promotion of Burundi's independence. In the period just before Burundi gained independence, 3 parties were formed in the country, including Rwagasore's UPRONA, the Christian Democratic Party, and the PP. The Christian Party comprised mainly the minority Tutsis. While Rwagasore was lobbying for immediate independence for Burundi, the Christian Democratic Party, on the other hand, judged Burundi as being immature to lead itself. So that's why it came as no surprise that the Belgian colonial administration was behind the Christian Democratic Party. Belgium clearly opted for this party to be the rulers of the country, considering the party to have more lenient politicians, while Rwagasore was thought to be influenced by radical political ideas such as those adopted by Congo's first Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba. But Rwagasore was resolute. At the first UPRONA Party Congress in March of 1960, he demanded complete independence for Burundi and called on the local population to boycott Belgian stores and refuse to pay taxes. His calls for civil disobedience led to him being placed under house arrest. But such a setback did not deter Rwagasore from his mission to see his people free from colonial rule. Ahead of the September 1961 elections, the Belgian administration installed a transitional government, mainly consisting of the Christian Democrats, taking into account their result in the 1960 local elections, where they had performed very well. Well, during Burundi's first pre-independence election in 1961, UPRONA won 80% of the vote, and Prince Rwagasore was positioned to become the first political leader of independent Burundi. Rwagasore's victory really came as a surprise for the Belgian administration. Considering him a nuisance, they had done everything in their power to prevent him from engaging in political life. The Belgian colonial administration was so angry about UPRONA's victory because they assumed that it was probably the end of their stay in Burundi. So following this result, on September 28, 1961, Louis Rwagasore was installed by parliament as the first prime minister of Burundi, 16 days before he was murdered. In the aftermath of the assassination, on the 2nd of April 1962, a Burundian tribunal consisting exclusively of Belgian judges passed its sentence related to the crime. The murderer Jean Georges was sentenced to death. The other accused were given prison sentences of up to 20 years. Jean Georges was executed on the 30th of June 1962, one day before Burundi's independence. Prince Louis Rwagasore renounced the life of a traditional monarch in order to lead his nation's independence movement. Unfortunately, his success ultimately cost him his life. Yet he left a powerful legacy of Burundi's freedom, even though he did not live to see the day that Burundi gained independence. After independence, the country was under the rule of King Mwambutsa IV, but as a constitutional monarchy rather than a traditional one. You can get more detail on this in my Michel Mikombero video, which I have linked in the description box down below. Don't forget to like and share the video if you enjoyed it. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been Tatenda for African Biographics. Until next time, cheers. Have a good one.